As far as kind of just at that time period in the WWF, Macho Man is kind of working his way out. But what was it like working with him? Because he's got to be eccentric, like you said, with that prank phone call. He was cool, he's great, but he's also he could be a little paranoid. But what's Macho Man like? What was he like to work with back then?
Amazing. Always was prepared for the show. He made me feel like an equal, even though I knew I wasn't on that show. We had a genuine friendship. When you host a show with someone, you become closer. And like I said, there are people that you'll work with over the years, and you'll host a show together. The chemistry is not necessarily there, but you still make it work. It was there immediately with Randy, and that's because of him. He allowed it to work. There are guys who put in that position just wouldn't let it work, or they would relegate me to a certain area and say, all right, you're going to deal with this, I'm going to handle this. He didn't do any of that. He was the most engaging, magnanimous person to work with, and I miss him. He was a good friend.
To me, he kind of embodies like a professional wrestler. When you think of like a wrestler, a guy that can talk, a guy that has the look, a guy that like if you turn on a TV, it's like, who is this guy? I'm keeping this on. Even snap into a Slim Jim, like he just embodies to me like the typical like what you think of when you think of a pro wrestler. I always think like the Macho Man, like the voice, the talk, everything
Yeah.
is wrestling. It's him.
Yeah, and as he was sort of moving into the announcing bit and stepping away from the ring a little bit, he was so good that. But remember, it was the Macho Man style. So a lot of times, if he was doing play-by-play for a pay-per-view or something, and maybe he was with the King, I think it was probably Vince, Randy, and Jerry Lawler. They were a perfect foil because Jerry Lawler would be going, "What did you just say? What are you talking about?" Randy would just go into his whole, oh, they're swinging from the rafters, even though there aren't rafters here. But if there were, they'd be swinging from them. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's that whole kind of,
yep.
And you're like, what? But you're listening and you're going, yeah, he was engaging, and he had that gift of being able to bring you in where you felt like you knew him. Now with social media, it's a completely different thing. And I don't know what life would have been like for a lot of these guys if they had had access to social media, but their opportunity to connect happened in front of a box with a piece of glass on it.
Was he a big fan of the prank phone calls? Like I was a big fan of the prank phone calls. Did he ever mention
I think
that?
he liked them. Yeah, I think he liked them. I actually did one on the Macho Man many years later. So yeah, I think they enjoyed the show. Listen, that's how the contact happened. So it did open that door, which was nice, but it just a great experience.
What was the phone scam on the Macho Man?
I didn't do it. I wrote it and then had a buddy do it because he would have recognized my voice immediately. But we just said it was a super fan who got his phone number by some chance out of the blue and just was asking ridiculous questions. And to his credit, he stayed on the phone. He answered the questions, and then he said, all right, brother, when you hang up, lose the number. Don't ever call me again. Hysterical.